Welcome back, everyone. We had left you over a week ago reading the life sketch of Mahaprabhu, and I believe we read through the civil disobedience movement, where the Qazi was shaking in his boots. There was 100,000, we calculated, there was blocks and blocks, like Fifth Avenue, New York City, like 16 blocks full of devotees, 30 wide. So we're going to continue reading in celebration of Chaitanya Leela. Of course, Gorpranim is over, but we like sometimes to read more after the festival, just to stay in the mood. So we're reading from the life sketch, and we're going to have kirtan first, and we'll continue reading and discussing. Hare Krishna. Welcome back, everyone. Let's do a little kirtan. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Let's get our drummer here. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Now we tell the drummer what the tempo is, and he just follows perfectly. And he lives inside my keyboard. He's very obedient. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sanyavani Pacharine. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Tagore Premanandi. That was 3 melodies all mixed up together in my massive confusion, having not played those in a long time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As they say, better luck next time. We'll try again. Ma'am Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Shamaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sanyavadi Paschatya Dasatanine. As I remember, we left off reading about Lord Chaitanya and the civil disobedience movement. And so we're going to continue reading from there. If we recognize that we read further, the way we will recognize it is by remembering, I think we read this before. And then we'll go on to where I think we left off, although Nadia may know where we left off. And if you think I'm absent-minded, what I did was I marked it, but I didn't mark the last lesson. I marked the lesson before that. So I'm only half absent-minded. Maybe today I'll actually mark it in the right place before we leave. Maybe you can remind me. Mark where you left off. Okay, so I'm going to begin reading. We're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and I believe it's entitled A Short Life Sketch. So we read about Lord Chaitanya meeting the Kazi, convincing him that he should he should not eat meat, and etc., etc., because cow is the mother. Why are you killing your mother? And Kazi made a declaration that Sankirtan would be allowed to go on. And to this day, it goes on in Navadvip, in Mayapur area, unencumbered, unfettered by any interference from the Muslims. The family rulers are still following that. So as you remember, the devotees were really, really upset. They're like, kill him, or something like that. I don't know if they said that, but that's the impression I got. They're, like, smash him. You can't stop the Sankirtan movement. Lord Chaitanya said, let me just talk to the poor fellow. We'll work it out. So now we begin reading. This incident shows clearly that the Lord was not a so-called timid Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is a fearless devotee of the Lord, and for the right cause he can take any steps suitable for the purpose. Arjuna was also a Vaishnava devotee of Lord Krishna, and he fought valiantly for the satisfaction of the Lord. Similarly, Bairangaji or Hanuman was a devotee of Lord Rama, and he gave lessons to the non-devotee party of Ravana. Gave lessons, yeah. You burn my tail, I'll teach you a lesson. I'll burn your kingdom. Yeah, he gave them a lesson. They captured Hanuman. He went to let Sita, to find where Sita was, and then to let her know that help is on the way. And he was finally caught, brought to Ravana, who wanted to kill him, and his brother said, no, according to politics, this is not allowed. You can punish him. So he set his tail on fire, and Hanuman said, you're going to set my tail on fire? All right, you're going to be sorry. And he just flew around and lit the kingdom on fire. Ravana was, should we say attached? Yeah, we should say attached, in the full sense of the word. And Ravana was so attached that even his advisors advised him to return Sita, because they could see this was going nowhere, and it was not only going nowhere, it was destructive. And he said, no, I'll never give her up. And he was such a demon. Could you imagine, ladies, being married, having a man who says, I want to marry you, and if you don't marry me, I will eat you. I will kill you and I will eat you. Well, I don't know if you want to marry that guy. Well, maybe it's the only way you could live. You'd have to marry him. But he was such a person, true love, right? I love you so much that if you don't marry me, I will kill you and eat you. Just, to make sure you don't make a bad decision. Of course, Sita would rather die than be touched by Ravana. Anyway, Ravana was madly in lust with Sita. And because he was madly in lust, he lost all sense. And as a result, his kingdom was destroyed. But his advisors could see this, and they're saying, no, just give her back. It'll be better. I'll never give her back. That really is about as attached as one can get. So we learned something in the Gita about attachment and loss of intelligence, right? Dayato visham punsam. You meditate on something you want, and you really want it badly enough, your intelligence will just shut down, and you will do stupid things like Ravana did. So he's a good example for us. I like the way Prabhupada says this. Similarly, Bajrangaji or Hanuman was also a devotee of Lord Rama, and he gave lessons to the non-devotee party of Ravana. The principles of Vaishnavism are to satisfy the Lord by all means. A Vaishnava is by nature a non-violent, peaceful living being, and he has all good qualities of God. But when the non-devotee blasphemes the Lord or his devotee, the Vaishnava never tolerates such impudency. So A Vaishnava will act anyway in the satisfaction or for the satisfaction of Krishna. Is not attached to being nonviolent if it's necessary to be violent. But his normal state is nonviolent because that's the normal state of a sadhu. But if a sadhu has to act out of character for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna, then he'll do it because he's detached. So we are attached to the mode of goodness only up to a point, and if being attached to the mode of goodness or being attached to Vaishnava qualities, etc., gets in the way of our service, then we act accordingly. Otherwise, we're just then being attached to something which is ultimately not giving Krishna pleasure. So that doesn't make sense, right? Generally, we can say to manifest Vaishnava qualities will give Krishna pleasure. You're kind to all living entities. You give them your mercy. You give them knowledge and so forth. Krishna says, no one more dear to me than he. But sometimes other behavior may be necessary for the satisfaction of Krishna. It's not normal, but it does happen. Of course, Arjuna is the prime example. And Arjuna is interesting. What's so interesting about the Bhagavad Gita and the way Krishna arranged Bhagavad Gita is that Arjuna was willing not to fight, which seemed like a benevolent mood, benevolent attitude. I'll just give up the kingdom, spare so many lives. And Prabhupada said, Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to make Arjuna angry. No, you're not angry. You should be angry. These rascals need to be put in their place. These people will destroy the world. We need you to defeat them and take the kingdom. It's seva, it's service. It's not about what you want. So Arjuna was, he wasn't clear. He was a little confused about this. Didn't really make sense to him, from his perspective, being renounced and nonviolent in that situation would be the most magnanimous thing to do. And maybe in other situations it would be, but this situation, Krishna wanted him to fight. So it's a very simple principle. So by being magnanimous, being humble, being compassionate in this situation, it was all considered bad qualities. Krishna was saying, no, this is all ignorance. This is all foolishness. You think you know what you're talking about? Factually, you don't. So it's interesting because this point is being made with Arjuna. And he's compassionate. He's acting magnanimously. And he's acting with detachment. And Krishna says, you have a higher service, so your magnanimity, your detachment, your compassion, it's all getting in the way of your service, and it's not going to make me happy, so give it up. Interesting, right? So like sometimes I say, sometimes you have to be detached from your detachment, because sometimes we like to be detached, isn't it? Like we get attached to being detached. Some of you may say, well, I'm not that detached to be attached to detachment. But it does happen that someone can become attached to doing their austerity or attached to a certain level of detachment. And sometimes for service, they have to give up that detachment, like Prabhupada had to, give up Vrindavan. And he was living a very renounced life, but there was so much pleasure in that renunciation, and he had to give it up and go to New York and live there. So he had to give up his austerity to please his spiritual master. And even you could say, because we have this story where Prabhupada, in Mayapur, he really liked his hut. He said, my hut is Satvagun. It was just made of, they call it chatai, I believe, which is, you take bamboo and you slice it, and then you make walls. You have a mud floor and you make walls out of intertwined sliced bamboo. You've probably seen, definitely you've seen if you've been to Mayapur. And so after they finished building the first building or the second building, and they built a room for Prabhupada, he didn't want to go in that room. He said, that building is Rajasic. These big cement buildings, they're very Rajasic. He said, my hut is very sattvic. I like it. And the devotee said, but, to meet people, to meet important people, and it's not going to work if they meet you in a hut. It's not impressive. We need to impress people. You need to have a nice room. And then Prabhupada agreed. He said, well, on that basis, then I will take the room. And Prabhupada took many beautiful rooms in different beautiful temples around the world. So he had to become detached from his detachment for the service of Krishna. So this is not an excuse for all the devotees who like to fight and said, now I have my fighting license. But at the same time, it is an excuse for you to protect the devotees when necessary, not inaugurate, not instigate violence, but protect. Kshatriya means to protect. One little boy was fighting with all these younger boys, and his mother said, oh, just see. He's a Kshatriya, see how he fights. And another devotee, a little more learned in what it means to be a Kshatriya, said, no, that's not what a Kshatriya does. A Kshatriya doesn't beat up people. A Kshatriya protects people. And he may have to fight to protect, but he just doesn't go around fighting, like picking fights, like some, tough guy trying to show off his strength. That's not what a Kshatriya does. Hey, who do you think you are? Get out of my way. Not like that. So this is not an excuse to be an imbecile, so to speak, violent imbecile. Hare Krishna. Okay, so I am just checking in. Service is not about what you want. Sometimes service is about what you want, and sometimes it's not. But it's always about what Krishna wants. You just may want what Krishna wants, which is nice, pure devotional service. You want what Krishna wants. But, we have to learn or experience wanting what Krishna wants. That is another stage of bhakti. Well, I don't want it, but Krishna wants it, now I want it. Something like that. That is pure stage of bhakti. And it's not, I like this, I don't like that, therefore I do this, I don't do that. That's lower stage of bhakti. That's okay when you're progressing. But someday you'll progress to the point where if Krishna doesn't like it, even if you like it, you won't like it. I think all of us have a little bit of that experience now, at least in terms of eating. Some things are tamasic foods, and we know it's tamasic, and we may like it, and we don't eat it because we said, I don't think this is right, or I don't think Krishna will like it or be pleased, something like that. Okay, let's read on. After this incident, the Lord began to preach and propagate his Bhagavat Dharma, or Sankirtan movement, more vigorously, and whoever stood against this propagation of the Yuga Dharma, or duty of the age, was properly punished by various types of chastisement. In other words, also described in the Bhagavatam, you don't want to stand in the way of the Sankirtan movement. And you might think, well, I'm a devotee, so I wouldn't do that. Well, sometimes we see devotees putting things online that are not helpful for the general public in bringing them to Krishna. So that could be an example of impeding the Sankirtan movement. doing something or saying something which would cause people to not want to take interest in Krishna consciousness, cause people to criticize our movement, criticize Srila Prabhupada, criticize devotees. Yeah, so that would be impeding the Sankirtan movement. So it could happen. Or you could do something that just is very, it creates a problem in your local community, creates a problem for people. That's impeding. Of course, maybe that's not consciously impeding, but point is we can even impede if we're not careful. But someone who's consciously impeding, who wants to stop the Krishna conscious movement, that is not going to be good for them. They will suffer. And Prabhupada's mood was a little bit like this, like, don't let anybody stop us. And of course, you may know that many times the police tried to stop us, deprogrammers tried to stop us, governments tried to stop us. And Prabhupada was never really swayed much by this. He would always say, one time the devotees were getting arrested, like every few days, I think they were going to jail for doing Harinam on the street. Prabhupada said, well, you can do Harinam in the jail also. His point was, keep it going. If we keep it going, eventually we'll be allowed. It'll be okay. And it's true. We just, in most places. Of course, in Russia, that was different. But in most Western countries, we just keep going despite antagonism. And we come out successful. That was Prabhupada's mood. And then Prabhupada said, actually, nobody from the outside can stop us. And so that was his mood. Nothing outside can stop you. You just keep going. They try to stop you from chanting here, then go chant there. Or then you can distribute books, or you can do it in some other way. Just somehow or other do it. And then Prabhupada said that nothing outside can stop you, only something from inside can stop you. And we see that. There's much more danger within than without. Because if we start fighting, we can create factions and discourage one another. Fighting is very discouraging. When we're unified, it's very encouraging. When we're disunified, it's very discouraging. So we see that it's not really going to be from outside. But anyway, the point of Prabhupada's making here is that whoever stood against this propagation of the Yuga Dharma or duty of the age was properly punished by various types of chastisement. So here's an example. 2 Brahmana gentlemen named Chapala and Gopala, who also happened to be the maternal uncles of the Lord, were inflicted with leprosy by way of chastisement. And later, when they were repentant, they were accepted by the Lord. They at least, I don't know if both of them, because I understood his name was Gopal Chapala. I thought it was one person. Anyway, he was envious of Srivas Thakur, and he made up all kinds of lies about Srivas Thakur. And he was inflicted with leprosy, and he asked for the Lord's mercy, because he knew that Lord Chaitanya could cure him just by his desire. And Lord Chaitanya said, no. And when I first read that story, I thought, why? He's the most merciful incarnation. Why? Well, he wanted him to ask forgiveness from Srivas Thakur. That's the way you become free from sinful reaction. But it's interesting. He said, no, Gopal, no mercy for you. You offended my devotee. Your heart is a very pure place, and you've allowed your heart to become contaminated. Wow. Well, of course, we understand That it was the Lord's mercy to be so-called unmerciful. But that's how he learned his lesson. So Prabhupada says, and later when they were repentant, they were accepted by the Lord. Of course, Lord Chaitanya was always ready to accept them, but he needed to teach them a lesson, and he needed to teach us a lesson that if you want to criticize somebody, if you just have to criticize somebody, find somebody that's done something that's worth criticizing. Don't criticize a devotee. That is disaster. Of course, we don't recommend you look for someone to criticize, but if it must be someone, at least criticize someone who's done something bad, by which there's some redeeming value in pointing out what they've done is wrong. But to criticize a devotee, especially to make up stories about a devotee, that is as bad as it's going to get for you. In the course of his preaching work, he used to send daily all his followers, including Srila Nityananda Prabhu and Thakur Haridas, to chief whips of his party. They have this in America. In the executive government, someone is called a chief whip. I believe I've heard that. They sent Thakur Haridas and his two chief whips, party to party, from door to door to preach the Bhagavatam. All of Navadvip was surcharged with the Sankirtan movement, and his headquarters were situated at the house of Srivas Thakur and Sri Advaita Prabhu, two of his chief householder disciples. These two learned heads of the Brahmana community were the most ardent supporters of Lord Chaitanya's movement. Sri Advaita Prabhu was the chief cause for the advent of the Lord. When Advaita Prabhu saw the total human society full of materialistic activities and devoid of devotional service, which alone could save mankind from the threefold miseries of material existence, he, out of his causeless compassion for the age-worn human society, prayed fervently for the incarnation of the Lord and continually worshipped the Lord with water of the Ganges and leaves of the holy Tulsi tree. As far as preaching work in the Sankirtan movement was concerned, everyone was expected to do his daily share according to the order of the Lord. So now I have a question for you all. We're coming upon the story of Jagai and Madai. Did we read this story or not? I do not remember, because the past few weeks I'm reading different books about the Leelas of Lord Chaitanya, and so I don't remember what I read privately and what I read in the class. So does anyone remember? Did we read this story? I kind of vaguely remember we did, but I often tell the story, so now I'm not sure. I need your help. Somebody help me! I don't remember. And you're all thinking, maybe you have the same problem. Well, we have read it. Nadia knows. So Nadia, where do we leave off? We read Jagan Madai. You have mentioned not being... Okay, well, we have a question. So maybe Nadia or Anuradha can tell me where we left off, and then I'll answer Anandita's question. Anandita. Okay. You have mentioned not being averse to the ideal. What happens if we are excessively attached to an ideal that may not be possible for us at a certain stage of our devotional service? Is this desirable? It depends how you process it. I think personally for me it's desirable because for me having ideals is everything. You know, that's where my inspiration comes from, the ideal. But for some people, having an ideal and not meeting it could be extremely discouraging. or depressing. And so having too high an ideal for them is not good, because they need to reach their ideals. And if they don't, then they start thinking, well, maybe something's wrong with me, or maybe I'm not good enough to achieve Krishna consciousness, or they have some way of thinking that becomes detrimental. So now if we look at Prabhupada's books, he's showing us the ideal practically on every page. So that is necessary. You have to know where you're going. You have to know what the goal is. If the ideals are low, then we shoot low. If the ideals are high, we shoot high. And we know Srimad Bhagavatam is the Amala-aparadha, so it's giving us the highest ideal, pure bhakti without motive. And it's giving us the ideal through the lives of devotees. So we see the exalted devotion of so many great souls. And that's what we shoot for. And we should be relishing that. We should be thinking, yeah, that's what I want. So that's very good. That's how we're directed in Scripture, through examples of pure devotees, so that we could aspire to be like them, and then in that aspiration be inspired. Aspire and you will be inspired. So the answer to that question is yes, but. And if you're in the but category, what I would suggest is that you need desperately to get out of the but category, and it's just more of a psychological issue. And you have to work your way around that so that you can be inspired by these high ideals. It's kind of like, maybe when you're young, you see somebody doing something and you tell yourself, I want to do it as well as they do it. You get really inspired by them. And they're light years above you, but you're inspired by their example. So I've never heard anybody sing so well. I've never seen anybody act so well, or dance so well, or paint so well, or write so well. What an inspiration. You read Shakespeare, and you think, what a writer. Or you read Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, and you think, wow, what a writer. I'd like to write like her. Or you read it and you read Jane Austen and go, oh, this is so depressing. I'll never be a writer like this. That's unfortunate if you think that way. So if you have that mentality, you have to correct that, because the Bhagavatam is full of examples of pure devotees, which I guess if you have that mentality, it could be kind of depressing reading the Bhagavatam, reading about all these pure devotees that you think you're never going to be like. And it's just, what's the use of reading about it? I'll never be like them. No, the use of reading about them is to be inspired, and also to be purified by hearing about them. And to think that you could never be like them, just from a theological point of view, it doesn't make any sense, because you are like them. It's just you're covered. So you don't have to be like them. You already are. You just have to, it's like, you have something, you can't find it. You don't have to go out and buy another one. You already have it. You just have to find it. So you already are pure. So to be discouraged, in one sense, doesn't make sense. It's not logical. I'm so discouraged, I don't have a such and such. No, you do have a such and such. You just have to find it. So you are Krishna conscious, and it's there. You just have to find it and move all the junk out that's surrounding it. So that's the proper way of looking at it. So it's unfortunate if we're not inspired by hearing about the activities of the pure devotees, because their activities are there to inspire us. So if for some reason you're not inspired, then you'll have to kind of reorient your thinking in such a way that these examples inspire you. But if it's like, well, I have to be like Prahlad Maharaj and I have to be like him tomorrow, that's going to be a problem. Because I don't know how many times Prabhupada said, be patient, be patient, be patient. So many times. Right? Nectar of instruction. Utsaha nishtaya dharya. be patient. It takes time. Yeah. So I am. Okay, I hope that answered your question. Now it looks like we have another question from Reshma. There was some more questions. Oh, it's a bank holiday in the UK. Fantastic. You must work in a bank or in something like that. Reshma gets to come to hear class because it's a bank holiday. What's the holiday? The day after Easter? Recuperating from partying on Easter. Yeah. What do people do on Easter now? In England, they probably get drunk, right? On wine? But I don't know. Kali Yuga, anything's possible. If someone wants to, this is from Manjari, if someone wants to follow ideals, but due to circumstances created by relatives, those darn relatives always get in the way, it's not possible, then it pains. In that condition, what should be done? Well, you can cry and pray to Krishna. A couple of ways you can pray to Krishna. One is pray, please help these relatives understand what I'm doing. Please help these relatives be more Krishna conscious. And the other prayer is, please help me understand how to be Krishna conscious in this situation. Obviously, sometimes the other people aren't going to change. I think it's always valuable to pray for people in the hopes, there is always hope, they could be better. But perhaps the most valuable thing is to pray for yourself, that you can better deal with this situation. And you'll find that as you advance in Krishna consciousness, you become more accepting that some people are the way they are. And if people don't understand or appreciate or support you, that's their choice. They have that free will. And that's the way Krishna created this world. And I will not allow myself to become disturbed by that. I mean, the thing is, we can become disturbed by anything. And it is disturbing if people are impeding our bhakti. But if people are impeding our bhakti, probably, and their relatives, then if you're not living with them, then it's only minimal and temporary. And you should be able to figure out how to deal with that in various situations. A lot of times you have to keep your bhakti concealed. Just keep it private, in dealing with relatives. And the more Krishna conscious you are, the easier that's going to be. The less Krishna conscious you are, the more difficult it's going to be. Therefore, you may have to limit how much association you can have if you feel that it's really unpleasant or harmful, or they just are always criticizing you for your efforts, for being a devotee. And then it's kind of simple. And say, well, I like to see you, but if you're just going to criticize me for being a devotee, then I don't want to see you if that's what's going to happen. Sometimes we have to take that route, and sometimes we just take a don't say anything route, quiet, and just... Good Friday, Easter, yeah. Hare Krishna. You have another question? We have a confession from Christy. I only recently truly started to be happy with being an amateur devotee and accepting how little I know. Thanks to your classes and supportive devotees surrounding me. Feels way easier to advance like that. And as we've always said, and maybe we should make a t-shirt, no matter how bad things get, pakoras still taste good. Or should we say sweet rice? No matter how bad things get, blueberry sweet rice still tastes good. So does kirtan. And an ecstatic class is ecstatic, no matter how bad things get. That ecstatic class was still ecstatic. Yes? So that's the idea. So, Christe, no matter how much an amateur devotee you are, maybe handicapped. I'm in the ISKCON handicapped Olympics. I'm still, just trying to get out of nama-aparadha. Whatever you think you are, it's still blissful, and it's still susukam kartum. It is joyfully performed. At least it's meant to be joyfully performed. So, no matter how bad it gets, as this devotee said, we're going to make a T-shirt, I think. My worst day in Krishna consciousness is better than my best day in Maya. I think he said that after he became a devotee. Maybe Christe, you should write that down, put it on the wall or something. So he became a devotee, and it was so blissful and so exciting. And he said, "Yeah, my worst day as a devotee is far better than my best day as a non-devotee." So that's always, I think that's the mantra. That's the chorus still tastes good, even though things are difficult. That it's still better than not being Krishna conscious. So I have a question from Para Ananda, Piotr from Poland. My name is Piotr. I am from Poland. I don't have a Polish accent. I don't even know what the Polish accent is. Which is kind of embarrassing since I've been there so many times that I can't even imitate it. Imitation is flattery, because I can't imitate it, I'm unable to flatter you. But I can say his wife's name, Krishna Karshni, Margojata. My name is Margojata. I have mystic powers. I know what you are thinking. So we have a question. That's kind of like the conception of Eastern Europe for American, like kind of mystical. Transylvania, and all kinds of strange things happen there. What is a situation of a person who chants the holy name on the street and always strongly criticizes other devotees? Oh, great question. What is the situation of someone who's always criticizing the devotees and always chanting? Well, that is simple to answer. If he's criticizing devotees that actually genuinely, sincerely, wholeheartedly, unadulteratedly criticizing devotees, then that is the first offense to the holy name. And what is the situation? What is he doing? He's chanting nama-aparadha. And what is the result of nama-aparadha? Basically, maybe your bank balance might get better or something. Or if you're lucky, in a few hundred lifetimes, you may stop criticizing devotees and start chanting. Ananda, the way I've understood this, the way Krishna has kind of helped me understand it. Let's say I'm a first-class criticizer, like there's nobody can criticize like me. I won the Olympic gold medal for criticizing. But I'm chanting. I'm always chanting, going on in Harinam, whatever. And you're thinking, this is bewildering. He's chanting Hare Krishna. I don't understand it because he's criticizing devotees. He should have fallen down long ago when he's still chanting and it doesn't make sense. And your head's spinning around and then you just fall asleep because you can't figure it out. Well, I will come to the rescue and figure it out for you, right? How is it that he's chanting Hare Krishna? He must be a devotee. Not exactly. How do we know he's chanting nama-aparadha? Well, one obvious symptom is that he keeps making offenses. But he's chanting Hare Krishna, he's a devotee. But devotees don't continually make offenses. So if he's continually making offenses, that means he's chanting nama-aparadha because it's the first offense. And the symptom of nama-aparadha is that he continues to make offense, because if he was chanting nam-bas, he would probably stop making offenses, or he would stop making offenses gradually, because he would be becoming purified, but he's not becoming purified. So he's continually making offenses, which is the sign he's not making any advancement, which is a sign that he's firmly under the grip of tamagun, because that's where it comes from, which is a sign that he's committing offense to the holy name, and therefore his chanting is not helping him. It's probably not helping anybody else either, because the vibration is not pure. At least that's the way I analyze it. Mm-hmm. So that's my 2 cents. Okay. So, I mean, I think it should make sense to you, right? Like, he seems so Krishna conscious. He's chanting and he studies Bhagavatam and he's always offending devotees. Well, Krishna conscious devotees don't always offend devotees. So it doesn't seem Krishna conscious to me if he's offending devotees. It's like, but he exercises and he does push-ups and he eats salad. Yeah, and he sleeps 12 hours a day. Something's wrong with him. Seems so healthy, all this exercise. Fantastic. Why is he sleeping 12 hours a day if he's so healthy? Like, what's wrong with him? Like that, So we don't just want to look at what somebody's doing and say, what are the symptoms? The symptoms are that you can't stop criticizing devotees. That's not a symptom of advancement at all. That's a symptom of being strongly under the grip of tamagun. You cannot stop criticizing, blaspheming. And how are you going to make progress because you're offending the holy name? So you're just trapped. So look at all the symptoms. Okay, he's eating healthy. It looks good. He's doing exercise. Looks good. But actually, look at his life. When you actually look at his life, he has no energy. Can hardly get out of bed. Hardly do anything. Once I heard this saying, which is just common sense, but sometimes common sense, we don't always have it. He said, if someone is criticizing, then what does it say about the person he's criticizing, and what does it say about him? It says more about him than the person he's criticizing. Why is that? Because everyone has faults. So, you can criticize anybody. Prabhupada said, you can criticize me. So what does it say most about? Who does it say most about? The person being criticized or the person criticizing? It says most about the person criticizing. That this person has a penchant, a need, proclivity, however you want to look at it, to criticize. Like he can't stop criticizing. So it says more about the person who's criticizing than the person being criticized, generally. Now, as we've said 1,000,001 times, and now it'll be 1,000,002, if somebody is doing something which is wrong that needs to be corrected, of course we have to bring that up. It has to be dealt with. I wouldn't call that criticism. I would call criticism unnecessarily, without any reason, rhyme, or benefit, pointing out the faults of another person. And the only result of doing that is they become disturbed, you become disturbed, and everyone who hears it becomes disturbed. Not only becomes disturbed, but it negatively impacts our Krishna consciousness. Why would you want to do something that would involve other devotees in going down in their Krishna consciousness rather than up? Glorify a devotee, everybody goes up. Criticize a devotee, everybody goes down. Why would you want to participate in bringing everyone down? Who is that going to help? Certainly you're going to get the worst of it if you cause devotees to become disturbed in their Krishna consciousness. That just comes back to you. If you help devotees, that comes back to you also. So choose your words wisely, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Piotr says, Petri Loka, Piotr. What we can think about such man, is it possible to help him in some way? Is it possible to help him? Not knowing who the him is, I can't say, I wouldn't want to say it's not possible, but I definitely would say, uh, some people, if you try to help, be careful, because they'll start criticizing you. So the message to you is be careful who you try to help, because some people actually don't want to be helped, even though they pretend that they do. When you actually try to help them, they blow up in your face and they attack you. Has that ever happened to you? You try to help somebody and they attack you for trying to help them because you had to point out, Prabhu, I think you're like walking off the roof and it's like 20 stories below. You're probably going to die. Don't tell me what to do. Mind your own business. You have your own faults. Like, okay, sorry. So if you want to help somebody sincerely, genuinely, and you have some humility about you and you have some relation with them, and you feel like they would be open to your help, yeah, go for it. But in other situations, unfortunately, it may not work. You know, we came into the material world for a good reason. Well, it wasn't a good reason, but for the sake of this discussion, we say we came into the material world for a good reason. And to get us out, it's not easy. It's like most people don't really want to get out. I mean, we might say we do, but then we get the instruction about how to do it. And like, no, thank you, Prabhu. If I need instruction, I will ask you. Even when you sit in Bhagavatam class, you've got this filter. Oh, that instruction, oh, that's fanatical. I can't do that. Forget that. And this instruction, that's stupid. I already know that one. And, so we've got all kinds of filters and compartments. And yeah, that instruction, that's like way out of my league. That's like for another lifetime. So we're not, so easy to instruct. I was giving class yesterday in Slovenia. And it was about men and women, my favorite topic. I mean, I don't want to say it's my favorite topic, but it's my favorite in the sense that it's the funniest topic. I find it funny. That whole class was funny. And I couldn't help but being funny. I don't know why. It's just things between men and women are so funny, to me anyway. So I think someone was asking a question along the lines of how do you understand like who is the right person for you? So I gave a few ideas and I said, but have you ever thought to try to understand how you could be the right person for the person that's right for you? And I gave the example, like someone's looking for a guru, like who's my guru? Like who's the right one for me? Who's the perfect? I need just the right size, shape, and model, and not too heavy, but not too light, and sometimes funny, but also serious, and he's going to give me some time. He's going to listen to my problems, and really knows Prabhupada. And, you've got your whole list. I'm not saying that having a list is wrong, but the next question is well, what qualifications do you have to become a disciple of that guru? Oh, I never thought of that. So I think a lot of us are in that situation where, like, are we actually qualified? Are we qualifying ourselves to hear? Or are we like, yeah, what you said is true, but, I can't do that. So I don't know if this is in the scripture or it's just my god brothers said, I said, well, there are a lot of gurus, qualified gurus, but to find a qualified disciple, that's more rare than finding a qualified guru, even though the numbers of potential disciples are greater than potential gurus. So it's something we all need to think about. Anyway, even the guru sometimes has difficulty. I was just listening to a lecture the other day. I think I've heard this or a similar lecture before, and it's kind of shocking, because what Prabhupada's saying in this lecture, he's actually speaking from personal experience. And he said in the lecture, he said, if you don't follow the instruction of your spiritual master, what can he do to help you? He said, his mercy comes through his instruction. And he can't help you if you don't follow his instructions. So that's a general point, but I think we can say that Prabhupada is speaking from personal experience as well. You say, oh, you're a Prabhupada disciple. You are so fortunate. You have Prabhupada as your spiritual master. Like, no fortune if you don't follow the instruction. All the fortune is in the instruction. And you also have that instruction. You have the same instruction I have. So how did I become all of a sudden more fortunate than you? You have the same instruction. So the real fortune is the instruction, which we all have. And so make yourself fortunate. Follow the instruction. Yes? So, Priyotri Para Ananda agrees. Yes, it's true. My Diksha Guru one time went to rescue one cat from the water, but this cat started to attack him. Oh, we should make a Facebook video of that. And then we can put that little answer to my question to that. Okay, any of you who can find a Facebook video of an animal who's in danger trying to be saved and attacking the person? Yeah. That's the Chanakya Pandit. If you give a fool good advice, he'll become angry. Yeah, it's true. We see it. The fact is that if you don't, I want to go back to Godhead. Kind of the mood is I want to go back to Godhead, but I kind of want to go at my own pace, choose my own car, choose where I sit, choose this, choose, I want to do it, in a way that's like, doesn't shake me up too much and I'm comfortable. Okay, I understand that. But, that can be taken to too much of an extreme. What makes one a qualified disciple? Okay, you got about 6 hours, Christine, for that answer. If you go on my website in the section on Guru Tattva, I think we have a document from Hari Bhakti Vilas, which you may not want to read, but it's the qualifications of a disciple, because you may have to go to psychotherapy after you read the qualifications, because they're quite high. Like meek and humble and submissive and do what the Guru asks and live an austere life and be clean and like all those good things, right? Of course, as we know, Prabhupada was quite merciful, wasn't he, in accepting people. And his acceptance of disciples, at least first initiation, was like, okay, you are trying, so we're going to give you a chance to try. Like, okay, you want to learn how to ski? Okay, so here's the boots, and here's the skis, and here's the whatever you call those. And this is how you do it. We'll let you try. You're just an amateur, whatever. But today we're going to let you try. You're going to be the first one to go down the mountain. Yeah. Oh, we have the list here. Okay, we're going to read the list, everyone. Prepared. And make sure you're lying down because, well, Anyone who is suicidal, you can just pause for a minute, not listen to this list. Okay. The Hariva Bhakti Vilas lists the following qualifications for a bona fide disciple who may be trained and engaged in deity worship. Okay, here goes. My disclaimer is this could cause depression. He should be devoted to the lotus feet of the spiritual master. Okay, you check these off, ladies and gentlemen. He should be fully capable of upholding the vows made to the spiritual master. He should be engaged day and night in the Lord's service with body, mind, and words. He should be desirous of knowing the absolute truth. He should be spotless in his character, truthful, gentle, polite, pleasing in appearance, and intelligent. He should show proper respect to elders, to initiated Vaishnavas, and to the Lord. He should observe silence concerning material subjects and should have control over senses. That means no talking about Donald Trump anymore. He should have no attraction for committing sinful activities. No attraction. The bona fide disciple should not possess the following characteristics. Okay, this is should not. He should not be lazy. And all the women are thinking, well, this is great. It's just talking about the guys. So, no, it's talking about you also. He should not be lazy, dirty, sickly, continually afflicted or lamenting, angry, proud, lusty, or coveting material desires. He should not show the enjoying mood. He should not indulge in sinful activities such as taking meat, intoxication, gambling, or illicit sex. He should not earn a living by unjust means. He should not use vulgar or coarse language, should not be critical of others, and should not be miserly, malicious, devious, or envious. He should not give pain to others or be addicted to cruel activities. He should not be ignorant, nor should he be proud of material learning. He should not indulge in non-Vaishnava philosophies. He should not be addicted to overeating. Okay, disciples. What do you think about that? All the uninitiates are thinking, oh, no, I'll never get initiated. Gave everyone a chance. Yes, Jai Lakshmi, you should, I order you not to be sickly. Your guru is ordering you not to be sickly. So now you have to visualize health. And big problem when you start getting 30, 35, 40, the big problem is too much eating and too much sitting around. You need to eat less and move more. Like in India, everybody's like in the morning, they're all walking. Just move around, move the body. The body was the only machine created to get better with use. Interesting. So, Krishna Karshini said what I knew she would say, because I know exactly how she thinks. It seems almost no one has the qualities, especially in the beginning. Yeah. Well, you know the old saying, Krishna Karshini, if you don't have it, desire to have it. And if you don't have the desire to have it, then have the desire to desire to have it. And if you don't have that, then cry for the desire to have the desire to have the desire. And if you don't have that, then cry to have the desire to have the desire. So, in order to prevent you from any potential suicide candidates or people ready for mental health now, I read something. I forget what it was, but it was kind of a joke like that. You know, if you get too much into religion, then you'll need mental health advice soon. So, the idea is that we're given everything. Like, this is it. This is what you're supposed to be like. This is what you're supposed to shoot for. So that we're given that. And like, okay, it's time to roll up my sleeves and get to work. Now, it doesn't mean that I can achieve these things because I am who I am. But the most important point is if you say, yes, this is how I want to be. This is not like, no way, this is totally unrealistic. I could never be that way. I can imagine myself. I don't even want to be that way. That's trouble. But if you look at this and say, okay, I may be light years away from this, but this is what I have to work towards, and it's exciting. I mean, if we had these qualities, that would be exciting. So at least if you're willing to work for it. I mean, I can just tell you myself as a spiritual master on that. I can't represent all of them, but I would say probably I do represent most of them. That the main thing for the spiritual master is that the disciple's trying, the disciple's willing, and the disciple recognizes their mistakes, they recognize their shortcomings. And that means that they'll improve. But if a disciple is not willing, then how can the spiritual master help them? At least if the disciple is willing and open, even though they know that they don't have most of these qualities or they lack many of them, but the disciple wants to develop them, wants to learn how to develop them, then the spiritual master is going to help them. And the spiritual master is not going to give up on them. But if the disciple says, what's the use? I can't be this way, or I don't want to be this way. Then how can the guru help? So the idea of when are you ready to be initiated? When you're ready to be helped. When you're like, okay, I want help. Because what's the point of having a guru if he can't help you? Right? What is meant by sickly? It means not healthy. Like no energy, depressed, tired, can't do anything, not taking care of your body, allowing yourself. I mean, I don't want to make anyone feel bad if they have an unhealthy body, but just be as healthy as you can. Get out there. Vijaya Lakshmi, get out there, start running. Get a bicycle, start riding 5 miles a day. Get out there. Cut your eating down. Eat healthy. And think healthy, so at least you're trying to be healthy, or any of you who have health problems. I'm telling you from experience, new cars don't need maintenance, but when they get old, they can run quite well, but they need maintenance. I just saw something, I don't know if it's true or not, some 99-year-old ran like a 10K marathon or something. So don't give up yet. Keep the body oiled. It'll keep moving. Oh, we have some good quotes. Too many quotes. All right. Somebody needs to write down the quotes. I don't remember what I say. Strange as it is. You skip my comment. Okay. We have a special Shakti to skip comments by Krishna Karshi. Let's go back up. I guess the problem is, the reason why a person is looking for a guru, I notice that unmarried women are seeing guru as husband and are often in love with him and are obsessed with him. It is so unhealthy. Vedic times, women did not have a guru. Husband were the guru. Yeah. Should we start a new movement? Yeah, I think some gurus won't take women disciples until they're married. Which is kind of dangerous because the only reason she might get married is so she can get initiated. See some guy, hey, you, me? Yeah. Marry me, like tomorrow, because my guru won't take me. The guru is the spiritual father, not the husband. Definitely not the husband. That is not going to work, for sure. And the spiritual father can also be dangerous if it becomes kind of overlaps with the material father you never had, and you want, surrogate. We call it surrogate father, surrogate husband. So, but Prabhupada said, well, if a girl didn't want to marry, Prabhupada said, well, you could make Krishna your husband. Like, how does that work? Like the nuns, they make Jesus their husband. So there is some Krishna Karshani, I think there is some unperverted aspect of that. At least the nuns in the Catholic Church seem to, it works out for them. But I guess because he's not physically present, it works. But I think the idea is they're vowing not to marry, so they're going to make him their husband. So they don't need a husband. But if a woman makes her guru her husband and then artificially represses her desire to marry and then wants to fulfill those desires through the guru, that's going to not work for sure. For sure. Yeah. I think also it would be bad if a woman is finding satisfaction in the relationship with her guru and thinks that's going to replace or fulfill the desires for a husband. In some cases it may, if it's done in a Krishna conscious way, but if it's done in a way where she's using the guru to fulfill those desires because she doesn't want to get married, that's not good. Not only is that not good, it's could be a huge problem. And as we know, it has happened at least twice within ISKCON. Okay. Before I tell you what has happened twice in ISKCON, Krishna Karshani says, I ride my bike every day. Good. Now, you have to ride up hills or do mountain biking up because it's harder to ride there. Whoa. Yeah. What about people with physical health issues? Yeah. I mean, of course, what can you do? You have to take care of yourself. It's not, ultimately, you ask for initiation from a guru, he's not going to say, go to the doctor and get a health exam. I want to see the results. No, it's not like that. But, if you're too sickly, if you don't have energy, how can you serve and follow the principles? So I think, at least you should be healthy enough to follow the principles. Vijay Lakshmi said, many priests and gurus are handsome. Well, I was going to say that we've had three gurus that I know of ended up marrying disciples, which is kind of like marrying your daughter. So it was definitely a problem when Srila Prabhupada left because all the gurus, majority of them were under 30 and all their disciples were around the same age. Now, most of the gurus in ISKCON are in their late 60s, mid to late 60s or early 70s. And most of the devotees, most of them who are becoming disciples are in their 20s and 30s. So it's better and safer. But I would say, both for gurus and disciples, be careful. Because never underestimate the power of Maya. Did I tell you this story? It's so funny. Probably none of you have heard it. Because the last time I told it was probably 15 years ago. So my daughter, it's 15 years ago this happened. So my daughter must have been about 5 at this, no, 5 or 6. So we went to Delhi. We stayed with some devotees. We were on our way to Mayapur, and they have this thing in India called the tourist quota. So the day before you go to the office There's particular offices where you can get tickets, and you apply for the tourist quota for the train the next day. You have to go the next day, and they allot a certain number of tickets for tourists. So this was in December, and we found out that there was no tourist quota. Everything was backlogged. So now we were stuck in Delhi to try to figure how we're going to get to Mayapur. Eventually, through some friend, we got on a politician quota. They saved seats for politicians, and we were able to get it eventually, but that was like a week later. So now we're stuck in Delhi, with a 5-6-year-old child who's like bored out of her head. So my wife said to my daughter, "You want to go see a movie?" I just had to figure out how to like do something with her so she would not go crazy. So they found a movie, and I wasn't going to go to the movie. I wasn't interested. So I said, "Oh, the movie theater was in the neighborhood." I said, "I will walk you over to the movie theater." And then we went there, and they said, "There's no tickets." And all of a sudden, 4 tickets became available, or three tickets became available. And my wife said, "I'll take 2." And he said, "No, you have to buy all 3. Like, really? I was like, okay. So then I said, "Okay, well, I'll just walk inside with you, and then I'll come back home, read Bhagavatam or chant 100 rounds or something." So I called the devotees, very advanced devotee, all devotees in his family. I called the devotee, and I said, "Well, this is what happened. So my wife and daughter," I just wanted to let them know what was going on. "They're in the movie, but I'll be coming home. I'm just going to go in and, sit down for 10 minutes, and then I'll come back." And he was joking with me. He said, "Oh, you'll be back in 10 minutes?" He said, "Never underestimate the power of Maya." So this was an amazing experience, because I think the only other time I've been in a movie theater, I can't remember why. Maybe it was a devotee festival. But the last movie theater I was in India was like really run down, and like, holes in the speakers and dust all over everything. And it looked like the theater was built, it looked like it went through World War I and II, and it was like really bad. And then I got into this theater, and it was like, wow, I totally forgot I was in India. It was like beautiful. And I said, "Okay, I'll stay for 10 minutes. And it was like amazing sound system. My impression of movies in India at that time they were kind of like, how should I say? Kind of like not meant for Western audiences. There's different quality, the music and the film and the production. Everything was just like, it wasn't. If you released those films in the U.S., you're like, the only people who would see them would be Indians, but the Western people wouldn't like them. So that's what I was expecting, and some vibraphone, ding ding ding. How they do the music, and then which is not the kind of music that I like so much. So then, I sit down, all of a sudden this music comes out, like incredibly good music. Actually, the person who did the music won an Academy Award, I think, for the music. And there's incredible cinematography, and this huge screen, amazing sound system. I'm like, oh my God, India's come a long way. So, to make a long story short, I didn't leave the theater in 10 minutes. I didn't leave in 20 minutes. I didn't leave in 30 minutes. I didn't leave in 60 minutes. I didn't leave in 90 minutes. I left at the end of the whole movie. And you're all wondering, what movie was that? And it was called The 3 Idiots. But it was a social commentary. But I was just enthralled. This was like the first Indian movie that was like a Western movie. And it won all kinds of awards. But it was a social commentary it was kind of on Varnashram, forcing people to do what they don't want to do, become engineers when they're actually artists and things like that. So that's my comment, never underestimate Never underestimate the power of Maya. Right. Maybe that should be a T-shirt, right? Never underestimate the power of Maya. So, Christy says, I was once traumatized when one Prabhu asked me, do I find you handsome? But hearing these stories, no wonder somebody would ask Mataji something like that. My brain actually crashed. Inappropriate. Yeah, you don't want to. If due to health issues one cannot follow the austerities, we cannot be initiated. If you can chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 principles, you can be initiated. As long as you're sure your health will allow that. But a lot of the health is affected by the mind, as you know. So you got to work on both levels. I can't read the next comment. So well, I have an announcement to make to all the unmarried female disciples, and Krishna Karshani. I don't think that the unmarried female disciples are the only ones that could potentially have a problem. But I have an announcement to all of you. I already have a wife, so that position is taken. Which makes life for us married men much easier. Because we don't have to think about a wife because we already have one. That's the point of being married. Hare Krishna. So, now it's time to end on this strange note. And we will see you on Wednesday. I have a question for you. This last week I was working on the japa course, and I only have 2 more things to do that I was working on this morning to finish. And I got so inspired. This course is going to be amazing. You're not going to believe how good it's going to be. Oh my. I was joking with the devotees, like how, if I have something that I think you will benefit from, that I created, how do I tell you it's good, at the same time be humble? It's just like, I have to say, this course, I think you might like it. Like, how do I say it? And I just want to tell you, it's amazing. It's going to be amazing. And I'm not saying it to toot my own horn. It's just, by Krishna's mercy, it's coming out amazing. And I'm so excited now to do other courses for devotees and non-devotees. But we have a problem. The problem is time. Time. Well, that's another course, Vijay Lakshmi. We have we're going to do a 2-session online japa course for 2.5 hours. I think the 17th and the 25th of April. It just went up. But this is a self-paced online course, that will take you months to follow to revolutionize your japa. So this is another course. This other course I've been working on is, it's like, there's so much in there and so many extra things. And, aside from those like 35 lessons, videos, there's all kinds of audio that I've taken from other places. It's going to be like amazing. So then I was thinking, if I start the class later in the day, then I have more time in the morning to work on these courses, because I don't seem to get time to work on them unless I take off a week. So I'd either have to take off 1 week every month, or maybe start class every day at like 9:30, which is an hour and a half later than we're starting now. Now, is that good or bad? I think for some of you it's probably better. I think in India it's probably better because it becomes your evening. So I don't think it's going to help you much in London. It's just going to be This time might be better for you in London. It's like your lunch break. So, is starting class later a problem for anybody? Because then that, instead of starting at 8, then if I start at 9:30, that'll go right in, and then on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it will end right when we start our japa. So you can just like jump over into the japa class. That was one idea. One idea is cutting the class down a half hour. So if we start at 8, 8 to 9, or maybe both, 9:30 is good. Okay. Somebody make it's all good, later time. Yeah. I assumed later time would be actually better. Better. 9:30 better. Okay. So this week, okay, so this week, let's continue it. We can continue at 8. Problem for Australians, but it's already a problem because it's so late for you. Yeah, it's a problem for Australians. And a problem for Chinese, but the Chinese don't watch it. But in Australia, it must be... Laura, what time is it right now for you? We're going to get the real hard news that it's like midnight or something. Yeah. So the japa is at 12:30 a.m. So it means it's 11 p.m. for you now. And the class starts. Yeah, it's already too late. Yeah. All right. Let me think about it. What if we do 5 to 6 a.m.? No. Yeah, okay. Okay, we'll think about it, and then if we're going to change it, we'll start it the next week. But otherwise, taking a week off, wow. I spent 5-6 hours every day, 7 days working on this, and almost finished. I was just finishing this morning, creating a guided meditation where we have group chanting, and then I recite the meaning of the mantra like every minute, and you just meditate on it and you chant. So that's what I'm working on. So then if we make the class an hour and a half later, that's 2 a.m. for Laura. Well, we could make it 2 hours later and just for an hour. Anyway, we'll think about it. You can send me your feelings about it all. Okay. She'll be, yeah. Maybe you can change your lunch break, Tanya. All right, we'll see. Okay, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.